Hi everyone, it's Nicole Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be using some of the brand new Colorado Craft Company Anita Jeram June 2022 release stamps to do some stamping and coloring right over pattern paper. So this is something I love to do. Generally you're going to need something pretty light or without a lot of pattern in it for successful results. I'm using some pattern paper, mostly like cloudy designs from the Honeybee Stamps Modern Spring 6x6 paper pad. And what I love is I purposely went and looked for some pattern paper that kind of matched the theme of my stamp set today. We are going to be using the Stargazers, and I picked that because I thought the kind of cloudiness of these pattern papers, the second pattern paper definitely has more of a cloudy feel, but this one has maybe even more of a realistic kind of nighttime cloudy sky feel. So I am going to be using it today. I've also die cut my pattern paper using the Mama Elephant Oh Hi Loopy die. This is one of my favorite dies right now, and I think it makes a really fun frame, and I wanted something kind of decorative to dress up this design. It's pretty simple and a frame die fits the bill. I'm also coloring in my image. I did stamp it with Hero Arts Intensified Black ink. I'm sorry that the grass coloring did not get caught on camera. I didn't realize my memory card was full, so I fixed it before I started coloring in my bears. Now, as always, I have listed the colors I'm using in the description down below, as well as over on my blog for easy reference. Something that works really well, and I would love to know if you have tried this, is coloring with your Copic markers right on pattern paper. It's pretty similar to coloring on your favorite white cardstock for Copic markers, and it creates a completely different look. This is going to work best with the darker colors that you use to color because they'll cover up the pattern paper color in the background. This is a very light gray in the background, so it makes it super easy to color over. And that's why I say I really do like to try to pick a pattern paper that is muted in some way or is a nice light color. But it allows you to not have to do any masking, to still have that fantastic background around it. So I love that these bears are just sitting here stargazing against this pretty night sky. I am using E55, 57, and 59 for my first bear. I used YG95 and 97 for the grass along the bottom edge. We are going to be using not only this middle inside piece, but the outside frame when we piece together our panels here to build our card, which I'll show you as soon as I'm done coloring. I did work pretty hard to get a good blend. I'm going to have to go over this a few times, but that is totally okay. And I'm really saturating the paper. I would advise, just as always with Copic coloring, maybe give it a break in between coloring or blending, pardon me, so that when you saturate the paper, it doesn't bleed outside of the line. But the goal for a good blend with Copic coloring is on the back side of your paper to have it bleed through to the back side. That means you did get a really good blend. And in this case, it really does bleed through to the back. After I have my coloring, I am going to go back with my darkest marker, and I am going to kind of add some of that shading back into the design. Naturally, where the stamp image has some of those darker areas and things like that, just to give a little more depth and dimension, I will be taking my darker markers and also adding a little dot detail, something I love to do for critters. And if I felt like I got a little too dark with my darkest marker, I'll just blend out with E57. I did do a little R30 for the inside of the ear, which gives it a little bit lighter look, even though it isn't necessarily pink on this card. Now I want to use a different color combination for the small bear so that it kind of stands out. While this isn't a huge difference, it does definitely allow for the images to both be standalone. So this is going to be E84 and 87. And again, light color all over first, and then we're just going to blend out with our darkest color and go over it as many times as we need to add in that great detail. This is another really fun way to create a card without coordinating dies. Coordinating dies are fantastic and I love them, but sometimes it's really fun to create a card that doesn't have that white outline. And this is one of my favorite ways to get around any masking or anything like that. So here are all my pieces after my coloring is done. I did die cut the Oh Hi Loopy from Mama Elephant from the pattern paper, which you can see we're using the inside piece and the outside piece, and also smooth white cardstock. The smooth white cardstock is going to give us that contrast loopy frame. Here's my darkest markers creating a little dot detail on our larger bear. To make my sentiment fit my card design today, I really tried several different things, and it's just not going to work with this particular frame. And with a clear stamp, you always have the option of masking it and kind of trying to piece it together that way. I really felt, because it would require me to do 4 different separate kind of masking to make the sentiment work the way I want, or you can cut it apart. If you cut apart your sentiments, you can always piece it back together in the original way in a MISTI very, very easily. So I did cut mine apart today, and I am using Look at the Stars, Look How They Shine for You, which I'm singing the song in my head. Every time I read that, I sing it in my head. But I think it is just really, really cute, and I think it works for a lot of different occasions. There's 4 different sentiments in this stamp set, so there are other options, or you can completely use some of your other favorite Colorado Craft Company sentiments here. And I am going to turn mine into a birthday card by stamping some birthday sentiments inside, which I'll show you in a bit. And then, of course, I did take a black jelly roll pen and add detail to the eyes, which instantly makes those eyes pop. In my MISTI, I am going to go ahead and place all my elements, and I am stamping my sentiments. So I started from the bottom up. That's going to allow me to have enough room. The bottom line is Shine for You, and then we're going to piece together Look How They right above that and finish with Look at the Stars at the very top. This just ensures that I have enough room for all of my text. I highly recommend stamping it separate, because then you can kind of buddy it up and squish it together a little more, which is how I personally like it, almost like this was how it was meant to be. I used to not like to cut apart my clear stamps very often, and I still will try not to. I will mask them whenever possible, but for this, it made it so much easier just to go ahead and cut them apart. I would highly recommend a nice sharp pair of scissors. And just kind of go slow. I am stamping and embossing with white, which is my favorite. You guys probably know I love a good white embossed sentiment or image. There are star type images in this stamp set. However, I kind of opted not to use those on my card. I'm going to draw in stars and then use some star confetti as a fun embellishment, as well as some heart embellishments. Of course, we have to have a heart somewhere. Before I embossed that last line, I noticed I had some stray embossing powder flakes, so I did take a dry paintbrush and wipe those away before heat embossing, so I didn't end up with white flakes all over my bears. Before I adhere anything, now I'm just taking my white jelly roll pen and I am drawing in stars all over the background, not only in the center, but kind of in the outside frame as well. And then we're going to take a Stardust glitter pen for nice little bit of sparkle that's very subtle in the background. I love these Stardust glitter pens. I've had them forever and I love them. And then finally, we will finish with some Silver Star confetti. But let's go ahead and adhere everything to our card base first, and then we'll start gluing down our embellishments to finish the design. I'm going to start with the outer frame. And then I'm going to use some liquid glue to glue down the loopy frame right inside of this. Another option, if you didn't want to do an inlay style, is you could just die cut the loopy frame from white cardstock and lay it over the pattern paper. I wanted my image to stay within the design. I hope that makes sense, down along the bottom edge and not stick out past the loopy frame. And so that's kind of part of the reason I chose the inlay. Plus I really like the inlay as far as texture goes. And just around the edge, I'm going to put a little bit of glue. So hopefully this lays nice. And then we're just going to inlay that center panel right there inside. So sweet, and the pattern paper in this case I feel like is just perfect. And I do need to add some glue in a couple little places, you know, to make it lay nice. And then it's time to take little dabs of glue and place this all over the background. I really wanted this sky to have a lot of stars in it, a lot of interest. It matches our sentiment and the theme and style of our design. And I purposely went very muted here. I felt like the more muted neutral colors worked really well with our pattern paper and just the overall look and feel of the card design. Same with my hearts. I chose brown. I did not think that red in this case would really translate the way I wanted it to. I thought white might be a little... I just wanted something a little different, and I think the brown really works. On the inside of my card, I am going to take some birthday sentiments from one of the first Anita Jeram stamp sets called Birthday Wishing. It's one of my favorites if I want to create a birthday card, and because all of the fonts go together in the Anita Jeram stamp sets, you can really mix and match. So while, yes, I use the sentiment from our Stargazer stamp set, you could use anything you wanted on the front of the card because they all just really mix and match well. So I used two phrases from Birthday Wishing, and I think that really finishes off my card nicely. So inside it says, "Happy birthday. Today is the day for wishing and smiling and celebrating you," which I thought the kind of wishing thing, like wish upon a star, made this a really fun birthday card. For my second background, I chose another Mama Elephant frame, this time in the clouds. And this is another cloud design pattern paper from that same Honeybee Stamps paper pad, Modern Spring. You can see, again, it's very muted. This one is a little bit more whimsical and you can really see the cloud definition a lot better. I die cut the frame. I'm going to use the inside and the outside, but I am going to pop up the outside frame by die cutting two more of the In the Clouds frames from white cardstock just to give it a bit of dimension. And then these bunnies laying in the grass stargazing is also from Stargazer. I thought they were so cute and funny. And we'll just be using another sentiment from the Stargazer set in the sky here, but we're not going to do anything crazy like the first one where we cut it apart. It's going to fit perfectly. I know nothing with any certainty, but the sight of the stars makes me dream by Vincent van Gogh. And a very minimal coloring. I did pick a different green color combination for this grass and then for a different brown color combination for one of the bunnies. And then we'll be using sentiments from Birthday Wishing inside of the card as well. So a lot of similar type components between the two cards, but just two different backgrounds. And there is the sentiment that I want to use on this one. I forgot to mention too, I am using the Morning Color Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated ink. I purposely picked that color of ink because I felt like it matched our pattern papers really nicely. If you saw my recent video where I ink swatched my Positively Saturated inks, it makes it so very easy to take your ink swatches next to your pattern paper and find an ink color, no matter what brand of inks you're using, that matches your design. And so that's how I picked the ink I wanted to use for my cards today. I'm using BG 90, 93, and 96 for the grass here, and I'm going to go ahead and color that in. This is a blue-green color, which I think works really nicely with our pattern paper, which has that blue, kind of blue-gray tint to it. And this image is much smaller than the first one, but I think it still makes a very big impact. With all the Anita Jeram stamps, you can definitely mix and match with any of the previous stamp sets that you already have in your stash, which is something I love, that you can really go back and forth between any of the stamps in your collection and create truly unique scenes for all of your card making. And again, this is really oversaturating the cardstock. I wanted the grass to have this certain look, and it took me a little bit to get there. And then I'm going to go back with my dark marker and just add in some of those darker areas again where the bunnies are laying against the grass. For our first bunny, we're going to use E40, 43, and 44. I just love how they're laying on their back in the grass with their feet touching. I think it's so cute. And now E43, and then we'll finish with a little E40 to blend it all out. And then we're going to go with E55, 57, and 59, which is the color combo we used for our large bear on the first card. When this is done, I am going to stamp my sentiment using the Simon Says stamp Pawsitively Saturated Morning ink in that space right above my bunnies. And then we're going to draw in the stars and things just like we did for the first card, and then finish with a scattering of the little mini silver star confetti. I also think that some of the iridescent star confetti would be really cute here. And you can stamp and emboss the stars maybe from the Stargazer stamp set in silver. I think would be super pretty against the background. I did take my black jelly roll pen and add detail to the eyes, which makes the face pop. And then I go ahead and use the entire frame in my MISTI so that I can really, we don't have to have all of those layers though. We can get it lined up perfectly. I do have a little adhesive there on my paper in the back of my MISTI, helping hold it in place, as well as the magnet. And I like to use the MISTI. You can see that a couple of the spots didn't stamp very well, and I'm able to make sure that I get a really good stamped impression. For some reason, I don't think I got enough ink on the word with there. So there is our sentiment. And just like before, I don't know if I mentioned this, we are going to stamp inside of the card. This time I'm going to stamp happy birthday, wishing your day is filled with lots and lots of smiles, to finish it off nicely. I did create coordinating envelopes, and my memory card was full when I stamped the first one, but both of them are going to be created exactly the same, so I'll be showing you that here in a minute. I'm going to speed through adding the stars, white jelly roll pen, stardust jelly roll pen, just like before. Little brown hearts because they've matched the feel, or I just did one here right underneath the sentiment, and then lots of little silver star confetti. This frame would also be a really cute one if you wanted to make a shaker out of it, and you could have shaker stars inside. Oh my goodness, I think that would be really, really cute. And maybe stamp your sentiment on the shaker acetate instead of inside, so it's always really visible. I've got my side fold card base here. I'm going to put some nice strong adhesive all over the background and start with my 2 white frames as well as my inlay insert. And along the bottom edge, it's a little skinny or a little skinnier than my tape runner, so I did put liquid glue down there, but tape runner everywhere else. Then I just want to make sure they're lined up, and we'll finish with the pattern paper frame. And I like how it just sticks up a little bit. It gives it some nice dimension. For the coordinating envelopes, I've got some soft navy envelopes from Simon Says Stamp. I love their colored envelopes. They're fantastic. And the navy really matches our cards so nicely today. Stazon ink is perfect if you're stamping on acetate or something non-porous. But also, if you want a nice bright white stamped image, I love using it on paper if I don't want to stamp and emboss. And a lot of times, I used to stamp and emboss on my envelopes a lot so that they'd be white outlines, but I found that it warped the envelope a little bit, and I have kind of transitioned into using the Stazon cotton white ink for my envelopes when I want a white outline design, and I like it so much better, you guys. I think it works really well for this. So just kind of a little tip if that's something of a concern for you as well, and you don't want your envelope to warp when you heat set it. Even being careful, I was having trouble keeping my envelopes from warping, so I have really been loving this. And as always, I am loving a coordinating envelope, even if it's super simple like these are. One has the bear image on it, and the other one has the bunnies with just a few stars. I will be handwriting my mailing address on these envelopes with the white jelly roll pen so it shows up very nicely. You could always add a printed label if you wanted to as well. Just make sure it shows up. But simple but classic and matches our cards just perfect. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this video showing how to color stamped images right on pattern paper. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here is another video featuring Colorado Craft Company stamps that you might be interested in. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to my Patreon members. If you would like to become a member of Patreon, please click the link in the description below. We would love to have you over there in our community. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, click the like button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to always be notified when I have a new card making video. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.